The inconsistency in Trump's diplomacy and the desire of Israel through Mr. Netanyahu to stop any kind of deal with Iran has contributed to this crisis now.
Let's start with Israel and Iran. It's the subject of William's column in the Times today. The headline is Big Gamble Throws Israel into a Long Fight. William, Donald Trump doesn't like long fights. He doesn't have much of an attention span. He's left the G7 a day early. What do you think what's his influence going to be on all of this, do you think?
Well, it's very hard to tell, of course. He probably just doesn't like G7 meetings or meetings like that and wanted to go home. It could signal there's about to be a U.S. intervention in the military intervention in this conflict, or it could signal there's a big American push going on to get a ceasefire. I think that's much less likely. So we don't really know what he is up to. It is worth remembering that had he stuck to the deal that we did, that I was part of doing in 2013 with the Iranians on their nuclear program, that deal would still be in force today, and we wouldn't be in this situation. Iran would not be close to having nuclear bombs. It would not be necessary to attack them now. So the inconsistency in Trump's diplomacy and the desire of Israel through Mr. Netanyahu to stop any kind of deal with Iran has contributed to this crisis now. But having said that, we are where we are, of course, and Iran has got much closer to a nuclear bomb. And so now the Israelis will want to finish the job. They will actually want to bring down the regime or make it impossible for Iran to develop a nuclear bomb in the future. And that means carrying on with for quite a while, I think, with the military action that they've started.
Do you think the Iran could be trusted to follow the terms of the deal? That's the question, isn't it? The diplomacy route, the argument against it would be, well, Iran just in secret was just enriching uranium on the sly, and therefore the deal itself would never have stopped them in the end getting to a point of a nuclear weapon.
Well, the deal that we did had 3 years in full force, from 2015. With international inspectors taken into all the Iranian sites on a regular basis. And all the evidence from intelligence sources as well was that the Iranians did stick to the deal. There were disadvantages to the deal. It would have expired eventually. And also they got sanctions relief. They got more money as a result of it. So there were legitimate criticisms of the deal, but it did put them a good year away from any sudden development of a nuclear weapon, whereas not having the deal means they can only be weeks away from developing nuclear weapons. And that puts the whole thing on a hair trigger, which is what has happened now. The Israelis have pulled the trigger because they think the Iranians are getting too close. So that that diplomacy can work, but if diplomacy is to be abandoned, well, then you have to make a very good job of war, and that is what the Israelis are now trying to do. They are brilliant at doing it. The changes in military doctrine and the way they can kill precisely Iranian military leaders sitting in their apartments in Tehran is extraordinary. So they do have a very big advantage here. But Iran is a very big country with very big mountains, with nuclear programs hidden under them. And it's still difficult, in my view, to resolve this by military means.
And might they have provoked Iran, just finally on this point, William, in some ways by going after them now militarily? Might that actually result in Iran developing a nuclear bomb because they feel there's no point in diplomacy and they feel they need to have one?
Yes, if the Iranian regime survives, and by the way, I hope it doesn't. It's a terrible regime. But if just the cold reality of it is, if the Iranian regime survives and some of their nuclear program survives under the mountains at a place called Fordow, well, then they are incentivized now to make a nuclear bomb as quickly as they can. And that is the gamble. That is the risk that Israel has taken, which again means they will want to go on. If Trump goes to them today and says, well, time for a ceasefire now. Well, now having gone this far and created that incentive for Iran, The Israelis now need to make a more devastating job of it. And you can see them going about there, where they're attacking government ministries and trying to destroy more missile sites and so on. So they have complete command of the air. That is just all the characteristics of trying over the coming days to win a more complete military victory, not have just a quick operation and then a ceasefire, which some people might be hoping for.
Sources say Iran has sent messages through Gulf states to urge US President Donald Trump to pressure Israel to a ceasefire. In return, Tehran says it would show flexibility in nuclear negotiations with the US. It's the latest in the deadliest conflict between longtime enemies Israel and Iran, which have been attacking each other for 5 straight days. On Monday, Israel escalated strikes on a number of targets. They include Iran's state broadcaster. A live broadcast was interrupted by a missile, and a news anchor had to flee the studio. Israel claimed the building was serving as a communications center for Iran's military. Before dawn the same day, Iranian missiles had struck Tel Aviv and Haifa, killing several people. Israel launched its air war with a surprise attack last Friday, killing top Iranian military commanders and nuclear scientists. Its airstrikes have also put at least 2 of Iran's 3 operating uranium enrichment plants out of action. Israel has said its goal is to eliminate Tehran's ability to develop a nuclear weapon. Iran has denied it had plans to build one. Elsewhere on Monday, US President Donald Trump told reporters he was leaving the G7 summit early to return to Washington Monday night, citing the situation in the Middle East. Fox News reported he would convene his National Security Council. Trump has consistently said the Israeli assault could end quickly if Iran agreed to US demands that it accept strict curbs on its nuclear program. In a social media post Monday, Trump reiterated that Iran should have signed a nuclear deal with the United States, and he also urged everyone in Tehran to immediately evacuate.